today's episode, we're discussing a letter from a mom who wants her daughter, age 11, to be kind and inclusive. But she also isn't going to force her kid to become friends outside of school with people the daughter really isn't all that interested in. The mom does seem to know it's the right time to let her daughter make her own friendship choices. But still, we want our kids to make choices while acting decently, right? So it's hard to leave it up to them if we know they're kind of being jerks about it. Most of us have seen and experienced many sides of this whole issue, either as a parent or as kids ourselves, being left out or feeling a friendship forced on us because we or our parents don't want us to be mean. Then remember to stick around for the better friendship goal of the week at the end of the episode. And I am excited to tell you that I have the perfect guest to help me dissect this issue of how much kindness and inclusivity is appropriate to expect from an 11-year-old girl. Welcome to author Jessica Speer. Jessica Speer's book, BFF or NRF, Not Really Friends, A Girl's Guide to Happy Friendships, grew out of her friendship program that strengthens social awareness and helps kids learn to navigate common struggles. Her book engages and entertains readers by combining the stories of preteens and teens with fun activities and practical insights. She has a master's degree in social sciences and explores social emotional topics in ways that connect with kids. In addition to writing books, Jessica regularly contributes to news outlets on topics related to kids, parenting, and friendship. She lives in the mountains of Colorado with her husband and 2 daughters. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks so much for having me, Nina. I'm so excited to be here with you.
And you know what? I want to apologize. I realized that in the intro I said book, but it is books. It's more than one book about this topic. What's the title of the other one?
The other one actually is coming out next summer, and that one is called Middle School Safety Goggles Advised.
Okay, well, that means that you didn't do the one assignment I already had for you, so that's good. You can still do it because I liked this book so much, and I'm going to explain why in a moment, but I thought it was so important, the things you go over in it, that I was going to tell you, I'm going to need you to write one for older teens and then for college kids and for adults. But it sounds like you continued the middle school, which is, very important too, but just file that away as something to do later. Does that sound
That's a good
reasonable?
thought, Nina, because it does, the complexity of this does not go away.
And to let listeners know who might not have seen the book, BFF or NRF, Not Really Friends, really gets into the nitty-gritty of friendship skills. That's my takeaway. I mean, you might describe it differently, but I'm going to tell you as someone who thinks a lot about friendship, as you know, and who read it, you explain things that might seem like they should be obvious, but not only are they not obvious, they're not even obvious to a lot of adults. I'm going to give a couple of examples so people know what we're talking about. And you could add to them because you know your book better than I do. But some examples that I really loved was teaching people, kids in this case, middle school kids, how to listen, to think before they speak, to handle feelings of jealousy, allowing friends to be with other friends, how to be reliable, how to give a sincere apology, how to navigate conflict. Like these are all parts of your book that when you hear, they're like, yeah, of course, if you're a good friend, you're going to be reliable. You're going to know how to apologize. You're going to think before you talk. How many adults follow that?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, we're not really, taught this in any regimented way, so that's kind of what part of the inspiration for the book is we kind of learn this on the fly. And sometimes we learn it in a way that isn't helpful or isn't, actually pointing us in the right direction.
I'm going to get right to the letter and read it for us, and then we will dissect it. Dear Nina, I want my 11-year-old daughter to make her own decisions about her friendships, but I also want her to be kind and inclusive. There are a few girls her age who have reached out to her with texts for hangouts, but my daughter isn't interested. Her reasons, when I push her on it, vary from I don't like her to she's annoying to ugh, Mom. It's clear that she and 4 other girls are a clique and have little interest in including anyone else. How do I balance encouraging my kids' independent decisions with my even bigger desire to demand kindness out of her? I have an older son who was often left out when he was that age, so I know what it's like to see your kid not included. I don't want my daughter to be the cause of hurt feelings, But now that I'm on this side of things, I see it's really more complicated than I thought. I used to say when my son was going through this stuff, oh, I'd never let my kid act that way. Well, we can only control so much, I guess. I'd love any thoughts. Thanks, Nicole. Jessica, I'm going to push it to you first. Like just your reaction as somebody who has spent a lot of time with girls this age.
And I love this question because I see this all the time, and not just in the preteen years. I mean, even through adult life. So how do we handle a situation where we really don't want to, have a friendship with somebody? How do we treat that person, with dignity and kindness? So this is really tricky. So I love this. So one thing that I think is helpful is to help kids and preteens and teens understand that there are some shared spaces that we have as humans. And in these shared spaces, it's really important to treat people with dignity, to be accepting, to be kind. So let's take the school lunchroom, for example. And so there's a lot of things going on in the school lunchroom. We all have those, wonderful and those not so great memories of middle school, elementary school lunchroom. So ideally, in the perfect world, which we're not in, but in the perfect world, everybody would feel safe and comfortable in that space. So a lot of schools do a lot of work to try to create that. However, it lands differently. It lands differently with different kids. It lands differently from grade to grade. But I think as parents, we can help our kids understand there are places where this is a shared space, and it's really important to make sure everyone feels comfortable there. That might be the Boy Scout troop. That might be the team. So when we're in these shared spaces with groups, how can we behave in a way that doesn't make people feel less than or not worthy? So allowing them to sit at our table, allowing them to connect with the group. But I do feel on the flip side of that coin, it's also really important, especially as girls enter the preteen and the teen years, that they get to choose where they really want to develop closeness with people. So in starting in the preteens, girls and boys are looking for something more in friendship. They're looking for a little more intimacy. They're pulling away from their families. They want to share about themselves, maybe things they don't feel comfortable sharing with everybody. So it is important, especially for girls, to be able to choose who they're doing that with. When I fast forward to future romantic relationships, we wouldn't want girls to stay in relationships because they feel bad, because they're hurting that person. They don't want to hurt that person's feeling. So there is the balance. How do we treat people with respect in these shared spaces and dignity, and make them feel welcome? But also, how do we, also choose, where we're putting our energy in our friendships? Where do we want to spend our personal time with people?
And I love all of that. This point about shared spaces versus like maybe something different, like a sleepover is more of a private, you don't have to have everybody at your sleepover, but you can still be decent to people at school. Like I sometimes think people are scared to be too nice in a shared space because they're afraid that they're giving someone the wrong idea, like leading a friend on kind of, but that takes some maturity to realize you can be pleasant and friendly and say happy birthday to someone at school and invite them to do stuff something in school. It doesn't mean that you're obligated to have them at your birthday party from now until the end of time.
Right.
But it is tricky. And you do sometimes get these parents that do push. I wondered when I read the question, if part of Nicole's concern, and I get it, and I share it. I've shared Nicole's concern, if this is it, is as much about her not wanting other parents to think she's being a bad mom or a bad community member or a bad person by allowing her daughter to not invite someone over. So Nicole's daughter has these couple of girls who have reached out for plans. I mean, doesn't Nicole's daughter have the right to not be interested? I think we agree she does. But I get Nicole's discomfort with knowing that there's probably some other mom out there saying, hey, did you reach out to so-and-so? And that kid saying, yeah, but she didn't respond, or she said she's busy. Oh, did you ask her if she's busy next weekend? Oh, yeah, she said she's busy every weekend.
But is hard.
Yeah. Do you think there is a piece of that, of the mom pressure of worrying that the other moms are like thinking what a bad mom she is?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, we do sometimes make these judgment calls without quite understanding the whole story. So there's a lot of pressure. I see it all the time, memes and posts. Be the parent that encourages your kid to sit with the kid and I
Yes.
love that. I love the love behind those things, but I also see that there's a lot more complexity there. And I even personally have had this backfire on me. One of my daughters, my oldest daughter, who is a really empathic girl, and she really wants to do good. She came out of the womb wanting to do no harm. So this is a gentle soul. And so one of her birthdays, this is pre-COVID, they're trying to have that accepting lunchroom table where anybody could sit there. What happened was that ended up being a massive table. There's like 16 kids now because they were so accepting and so welcoming, which is beautiful. But then comes the birthday party, and she does not know what to do. She's
I have actual anxiety listening.
I don't invite everybody. What happens? So I'm at a loss too, because I'm also like, I don't know what to do either. I really want you to do what you feel is right. And so what she chose to do was invite a lot more people than she would have. And that gets hard. As it turns out, we have the party and there's some girls, within that group that don't really like each other that much. So the more kids you have, the more chances there are for drama. So I would love to say that was a drama-free party, but no, there was drama in that party. So had she really tried not to, please everybody and not hurt anybody's feelings, she might have invited just 4 girls over at a much more peaceful party, and instead of 10 or more. And then there was conflict ensued. So there is no easy way to navigate this.
No, there just isn't. And I actually got a comment that relates to what you're saying from my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook group called Dear Nina, the group. And sometimes I'll preview the questions on there just so that people in my group can comment if they want to. And it's been a fun way to get other opinions. And one woman, and actually this might have come from my newsletter. I also, in my newsletter, which I send out twice a month, preview the questions sometimes. And I think this one might have come from there. It says, my daughter, 17 years old, knows someone who's very nice, but is essentially socially awkward and has some major emotional issues that come out often. They were both on a team where my daughter was the captain her senior year. The mother is very nice and rightfully is a strong advocate for her daughter's social life. She encouraged social interaction between our daughters when oftentimes my daughter was reluctant and did so grudgingly. I think she means begrudgingly. I'm not sure the correct term there. For example, her mother called me and put me on the spot to include her daughter in my daughter's group of friends' last day of school activity. So we're talking seniors in high school. So it's a little beyond the age of your book, but still, you could see how some of these actions never really end. So she forced the daughter to do something with her daughter on the last day of school. It worked out because my daughter is very good-natured, and I told her that while they don't have to be best friends, she should be kind. But I'm just wondering, at what point, so your daughter in the case of the birthday party, this commenter's daughter in the case of the last day of school activity, were both really empathetic and kind, gentle souls. But I still also want to advocate for, it would be okay for this senior in high school, it would be okay for your daughter to not want to have every single person at their birthday party or not want to have every single person at the last day of school. Well, maybe a last day of school activity is more of a shared space example, but not if it was a private thing. It sounds like this was not a actual school activity. It was a, at home private thing. I don't know if we do people a disservice by always including them when they're not really wanted. Do we keep them from actually meeting their friends? I want to speak to the couple of girls in our original question who are trying to get in with this clique of 4. I wish I could take them aside and be like, girls, these aren't your people. And you're barking up the wrong tree by trying to continue to have plans with someone who's not even responding on text. Yeah. Maybe their mom's going to make them respond, but is that a real friend?
Mm-hmm. I mean, ideally, everybody has a friend that really wants to be their friend. So I think the earlier that parents can start talking to their kids about not everybody's going to like you, you're not always going to be included, and not every friendship is going to feel like a fit, but you are perfectly okay as you are, but keeping those things in mind is really important, because I do think we put a lot of expectations on other people's kids kids sometimes. And it often happens to be, those much more, gentle souls, lower key, highly sensitive kids that get to a point where they just can't take any more on their shoulders. I know my daughter felt that way. In fact, for her, COVID was kind of a blessing. For her, that was such a relief to have a break from that. And, when things were safe, but we were still not fully back in school, she got to hang out with just the people she wanted to, kind of guilt free. So I think that's a really great science example of, what happens if there's not all this pressure on kids, that they can maybe just really pursue the relationships they want to pursue. But again, that's a balance. I think there are kids that are not giving kids a chance that really deserve a chance. So it might start in that safe space, that shared space, giving kids a chance. And you never know, there might be there will be friendships that grow out of that into deeper levels.
Yeah. It is so tricky. And it's like each situation is different. I like what you said about the pressure that we parents put on other people's kids to like make our kids feel okay. I have 4 kids. I've seen a lot of things. They're ages 9 through 17. So I've been through this middle school thing. I'm in the 3rd round of it now. And yeah, gosh, it would be easier if my kids are, we're always included on the group text. We're always included in the outing. It just would make life easier, but they wouldn't learn anything. They wouldn't learn those resiliency skills. They wouldn't know the difference, I think, between like what you describe really well in the book as a healthy friendship, an accepting friendship, a friendship that feels good versus something that's not, if you're trying too hard. I mean, there's something that says something. Yes. What would we say to Nicole? So her kid has now, it sounds to me like ignored these couple of girls are trying to like get in on the group, or at least to make plans with her daughter. Her daughter's basically not answering the text. What could her daughter do if she really, well, you answer. What could her daughter, how should her daughter handle these texts?
And this is never easy. Kids will ask you. So say she just does a no thanks, no thank you on the text respond. There's a good chance that other kid is going to ask why, so in an adult world, we know that, no is no, and you could say no thanks and let's move on. But in the preteen and the kid world, you could say no thanks as kindly as you can, but there is a chance that other kid is going to be like, well, why not? Could see why her daughter might be a little hesitant to go there. However, I think it's a great skill to learn, just to no thanks is no thanks. I think that's worth the first try. If she really truly does not want to, enter this relationship, saying no thank you is a good place to start. But even that isn't simple sometimes.
So hard. I would probably soften it with it. Maybe it's a white lie, but I'm so busy right now. I can't make any plans right now. I mean, and so it's not like a hard no.
Yes.
But it's maybe just a not right now. I can't book anything right now, or or I'll ask my mom, and then maybe mom says, we're so busy right now. I don't like. It's hard. It's easier if it's kid to kid. It's a little harder when the mom gets involved. And, I've made that mistake before. Somebody did me a huge favor. And sometimes you don't know, I'm better about it with my younger kids, but with one of my kids, I won't say who, I was still the one reaching out for plans. Like I didn't know it was time yet. Sometimes you need someone to tell you. And I reached out to a fellow mom. Oh, is so-and-so free Saturday night? My kid wants to hang out with your kid. And the mom said to me really nicely, I would advise this to anyone, I will have my kid reach out to your kid. Sounds great. I'll have my kid reach out to your kid. Her kid never reached out to my kid. I didn't tell my kid that I don't even think I told my kid this conversation ensued. But when her kid didn't reach out to my kid, that was a cue to me. This kid is not interested in my kid. It was the most gentle. It worked out nicely because my kid didn't even know about it. But I was able to not continue to encourage my kid. Oh, hey, you should reach out to this one. See if this kid's free. Because I had gotten the cue from the mom. Number one, we're not making plans for our kids anymore. It's time for the kids to do this themselves. Number two, if my kid's interested, your kid will hear from mine. And we didn't hear from them, that was okay. Point taken. I'm thankfully astute enough that I was able to steer my kid away from this kid. Not because this kid's a bad kid, but if they're not interested. You can't force a friendship.
No. And there is that funny period of time where it goes from parents coordinating things to the kids, and that doesn't happen like at the same time for everybody. So I
Right.
loved how you handled that, just kind of realizing, oh, okay, we're there. Because you don't know sometimes whether you're there or not. And you're there with some kids and you're not there with other kids. But yeah, at some point, there is that shift where it's the kids communicating directly with the kids, which is a relief to so many parents in so many
It's
ways.
usually when they
And I
start
love
texting.
I love the idea of softening that you said. So there is a way to soften that. And my kids often, when they're stuck with what to say, like in a text, we'll talk that through together. And I encourage, my kids and other parents to encourage their kids, if they don't ever quite know how to respond, that's a great teaching moment. Let's connect about how to maybe respond to that. And, text has many downsides, but one of the good sides is it gives you a chance to think about your response. Where all this used to happen live face to face, it doesn't as much anymore, but we have a moment before we respond to think about, what can we say and how might that come across to the person getting this message?
Yeah. And another huge thing that text brings to the social plan making is who's included on the group text and who
Oh,
isn't.
yes.
Being put on the group text is like a gateway to plans. And if you're not on the group text, whether it's a group on Snap as the kids get older, I've learned, at least with my kids, I know it's different in every community, but the kids, they barely text like regular text. They have Snap groups. And if you're in the Snap group, well, then you know what the plan is for Sunday, afternoon. If you're not in the text or the Snap group, you don't know what the plan is. No one's asking each other directly per se. Someone just puts out on the group, oh, hey, who wants to go to, this barbecue thing that they're doing at, the school. And if you're on it, you know about it. And if you're not, you don't. And it's, oh gosh, so getting on that group text might be a key that a lot of parents don't even realize is happening.
Oh, and it's stressful. If you really want to be included, but you're not. I mean, this is all, much more intense than it was when we were growing up. And it was simplified and face to face. And we didn't know about the things we weren't invited to. So I feel a lot of empathy for kids today because this is so tricky. They're bombarded with this, 24/7, and there's a handful of kids that make 2 or 3 good friends in elementary, and that lasts all the way through middle school. But the majority, there's huge changes all the time. And it's just constantly in a state of flux. I mean, there was this awesome study that came out of UCLA. They followed 6,000 sixth graders through in middle school, and 2/3 of them in their first year of middle school kind of jumped friend groups and changed friendships. So the instability is the norm. As parents are watching this, it breaks our heart sometimes because we'll see those times where our kids is kind of floundering in between groups and spaces, and they're finding their way. And that's exactly what they're doing, is that they're trying to find their way. They're trying to learn these skills that we started on the beginning of this call. They're trying to figure out, wait, who am I, and where do I actually feel like I fit, and how do I connect? And it's not easy, and there's lots of ups and downs in that process.
We've spent a lot of actually this call thinking about the kids who might be leaving others out and all that, but it's how do you learn to recognize true friendship if you haven't gone through that experience? We as parents cannot save our kids from every hurt feeling, from every birthday party they weren't invited to. I have learned that the hard way. I'm saying that with a smile on my face because I've had couple ugly experiences where I got too involved. I literally shudder in embarrassment thinking about it because I would never do that now. But I mean, I've been a parent for a long time. I've made some mistakes. And those mistakes probably robbed my kids and they learned it eventually once I realized I've overstepped. But there is such a thing. And your book, I wish every kid would read this book. And I know you used she a lot in the book just to make it easier to write, but you point out in the book, it's really for all kids to learn skills that they might otherwise skip if their parents don't let them experience it.
Right. And I've done it too, Nina. I've totally overstepped sometimes and assumed I knew the whole story. And there's always more to the story. So when we see something that we feel is a slight on our kid or something, there's always more going on there. So I think it's important to just realize there's, two sides to everything, and things are always more complex than they first appear. So yeah, it's just buckle up. Let's sail through these years together and keep loving your kids, keep helping them if they're lacking in a certain area. You say they haven't learned the simple thing of space bubbles, that someone needs a little bit of space, or say, they struggle with jealousy, or they, they're not very trustworthy. They tell a lot of lies. So all these little things at some point, you leak into their friendships and cause all sorts of interesting things to go on. So we can just help them learn that, they're kids, they're preteens, they're learning these things. And, even those most painful things, even you and I, overstepping our role as parents, we clearly learn from that. We learned some great lessons from that, and we're going to do it differently next time.
Yeah. And, I think Nicole, our letter writer, can hopefully feel better knowing that her daughter making her own choices and sometimes not maybe doing it as nicely as she should is something she, the daughter, will also have to learn from. I mean, if you leave out enough people over time, if you are too cliquey over time, the universe answers and people not wanting to hang out with you. So sometimes you learn the hard way, and the parents can't always direct that either. Like she asks how, can I really demand my daughter be inclusive and kind? I mean, I think you can try as best you can, but you can't really control how your kids act all the time. I want to move us to our better friendship goal of the week because it relates to one of my favorite parts of your book. Jessica mentions 9 friendship truths. And I picked my favorite for the goal of the week this week for everyone, for adults. It works for adults. It works for kids, who she intended it for middle school kids, but it really works for everyone. And it's friendship truth number 9 is everyone's friendship goal of the week. And it is, you choose which of your friendships to grow the healthy ones. I think that is so beautiful. It is so, and it's what I would say to these 2 girls who are texting Nicole's daughter. Like, I wish if I could talk to them, right? I would say, pay attention to the people who want to hang out with you. Like, grow the healthy ones. You choose which of your friendships to grow the healthy ones.
Yes, absolutely.
That is all for today. I want to thank you, Jessica, so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a great conversation. I love this question, and I love all the work you're doing. I mean, this friendship stuff is tricky, and we're all learning as we go. So thank you for all your work.
And no, I love your expertise. And if we ever get another question having to do with middle school kids, I'm going to have you back on if that's okay.
I'd love it. I love this topic.
Everybody who thinks that they can use some friendship skills, whether you're an adult or not, and especially if you have a kid in your life. I meant whether you have a kid or not, but even you can use these skills as an adult. But if you have a kid especially, I really highly recommend that you get Jessica Speer's book. And I'm holding it up even though we're on audio, but BFF or NRF, Not Really Friends, A Girl's Guide to Happy Friendships. And you can find it anywhere books are sold, online, in person. Go get it. You can find all the show notes, which will include links to Jessica's book and her social media, where she has some really great tidbits too. And you can find a form to ask your own anonymous question for a future episode on ninabadzin.com. I'd love for you to join my Facebook group, Dear Nina, the group. If you have time to rate and review the podcast, or even better, tell a friend, I'd be so grateful. Remember, when our friendships are going well, we're happier all around.